everybody. I am Jarrett Ross, the Genie Vlogger, and welcome to another Genie Vlogger live stream. I hope everybody is doing well today. It's coming up to the weekend. The weather's starting to get nice around here in North Carolina for once. Still kind of hot, but not so humid, and we're actually getting breezes now, although I know we just had that hurricane kind of not go by us, but, you know, a couple hundred miles away. But hello, everybody. Today's live stream, I don't really have anything planned. We're just going to kind of chat and answer questions and see where all the questions take us as usual. So I'll start with the typical thing and just go through some hellos. And of course, I noticed we had our Canadian contingency here early. We had Eve from sunny rural central Ontario, Canada. And we have Brian Nash from How We Got Here Genealogy. Good day. Good day to both of you. Hope you're both doing really well. Our Scandinavian contingency here as well. Stig, hi everybody from Oslo. Hello. And we have some of our English contingency too. We have Julia Joyce from Hampshire, England. Hello. And Brian, I'm on the beautiful tropical, at least it seemed this year, of Prince Edward Island in the middle of Canada's Gulf of St. Lawrence. Very cool. And we have our Irish contingency, John Tyner, and our WikiTree contingency, all in one man. Hello, John. Good to see you. And hello, Mom. Glad that you're here as well. And we have Bear Var. Hey, good evening, everyone. Hello, Bear Var. Good to see you as well. We have Tate. I can't remember. I know in one of the streams you told me the way to pronounce it, Tate or Tate, but from Kentucky, hello. And we have Brian Alam from Northern Virginia. Hello, Brian. I don't know if I said your last name right. Let me know. And Karma Gal from Nebraska. Hello, Karma. Good to see you as always. Cheel from Newcastle, England. Hello. Thanks for joining. And then, I accidentally jumped past Matt, but Neek Starp G. Hello. And it's going so fast now, actually. Matt, good evening from Sweden. Good evening. More of our Scandinavian contingency. And our Portuguese contingency as well. Hola, Pasual. Good to see you. And my cousin, hello, Catherine, just back in the UK after 2 weeks in the USA, 1 week with a bunch of genealogists, including several cousins, and a week in Kansas with another cousin doing even more genealogy. Yeah, and I'm working on the video where Catherine and I exchanged candies. So Catherine brought me some candies from the UK. I got her a bunch of stuff from here in the US, and we tried each other's candies, and it was a lot of fun. Crazy difficult to record because my camera kept shutting down. So I have the first part, which I was worried I lost. I actually saved it all, but there were 3 candies that we tried during the point where it was turned off and we didn't notice it. But we retried all the candies the second time because we weren't sure. And so a lot of those we don't need to worry about because I actually got the original reaction of those, but the 3 candies we missed I'll have to use. But it's a really fun video. I've been really happy. It's just been a lot of fun just editing it. So been working on that, and I've been working on some crazy research for some slavery research of enslaved people in Florida. It's been some long research for a long time. Okay. Let's see. We have Alex VDV. Hello from the Netherlands. Hello. Hoe gaat het? Ik hoop dat alles goed. Hebben we meer Nederlanders? Iedereen hier? And then we have Matthew Nell. Hello, Matthew. Good to see you. En een meer Nederlander, Nick. Goedenavond vanuit Groningen. Goedenavond. Ik hoop dat alles goed met jou. I have a cousin coming from the Netherlands, and I'm hoping to meet up with him sometime soon. I don't know if I'll post about it or not, but yeah, that's I'm kind of hoping that I can practice Dutch with him, because I really don't speak Dutch more. I honestly speak more Dutch, like speak it on stream than I do anywhere else. Whenever I'm doing the learning, I'm usually watching videos or listening to music, or like doing Duolingo stuff or online quizzes and stuff like that. So yeah. Electric Comas. Hi, Sammy here. Nice seeing you at last week's conference. Awesome to see you, Sammy. Thanks for joining. Glad to see you. Yeah, it was great talking to you and hanging out, and hopefully hear some good things about that research we were going over together. Enabled Disabled, hello, glad to be in the stream. Hello, good to see you. Yeah, I haven't seen you in a stream in a while, so awesome that you're here. And for anyone who doesn't know, Enabled Disabled actually also makes genealogy videos as well. Tensi Cherry, hello from Los Angeles. Hello, thanks for joining, Tensi. And then we have Hopegate, hello from France. Hello, good to have you. I think you're the first French person that's commented so far. I don't know if we have anyone else from France, but thank you for joining. You are our French contingency now. We have Jennifer, hello. Brian, hello. Yeah, let's see Candy again. It wasn't recording, right? Trust me, by the end of all of that, at least I was on a serious sugar rush, and like I couldn't eat candy for like a couple of days, and I have a serious sweet tooth. Like I honestly eat way too much candy. I need to cut that back. So for me, like being like, oh no candy at all. Like when I had a ton of it, because we had a bunch of stuff left over, and I kept the ones that like I really liked. So still have some stuff that I haven't finished yet. Elizabeth Hemingway, hi from New Jersey. Hello, Elizabeth. Thank you for joining. And Jennifer, I have ancestors married in Groningen. Very cool. Yeah. Groningen, I don't know a whole lot about, other than the Unique is from there. And I don't know if I should say Groningen or Groningen, which I guess is the more proper way to say it, although I'm still probably butchering it terribly. And Alex, yeah, alles gaat goed. I'm currently babysitting my baby nephew, then sleeping over at my brother's house. Very cool, very cool. And Bear Pantry Show, hello from California. Hello, it's good to see you. Glad you're here. Let's see, I guess it was a couple of years ago I did a reaction to one of their videos. So yeah, that was a while ago. Brian Lewis, ik ben geen Nederlander, maar ik studeer het een beetje. Oh, okay, but a student. Or you study a little bit. Yeah, you're not a student, you study a little bit. I am not a Netherlander. I can't even speak English right now. I'm not a Netherlander, but I study it a little. Tate, how to ask AI some questions. Oh, okay, yeah. So like I guess good prompts for AI and stuff like that for genealogy, which we can discuss a bit. I'm not the most experienced with it. I'm probably more experienced than most, but I always refer people to Steve Little and Mark Thompson, and also the Genealogy AI group on Facebook is a great source. But it kind of just also comes down to understanding how to best use generative AI, assuming that's what we're talking about, because we could also be talking about facial recognition. We could also be talking about optical character recognition. But basically, yeah, with AI prompting, you just need to learn basic AI skills in a sense, or basic generative AI large language model skills. So like ChatGPT basically is kind of what everybody thinks of these days when AI is usually the thing brought up. But I think facial recognition is going to be a huge one. And I've talked about that in a few videos. I have a whole presentation I do that actually I'm going to be giving that same presentation in a couple of weeks to some group. I forgot which group it is. I have to look up. I think it's SVCGG. I think that's them. Enable disabled disclaimer. I haven't made any in a while. I'm planning on making in early 2026. Yeah, genealogy videos can be difficult to make, especially when you're good at going into research and it's difficult when you're trying to write something up on in-depth research, because as you go through it, or at least for me, as I go through it, I check every little piece. And so it's great because I often find parts where it's like, oh, I didn't realize it just accepted that birth date and I didn't actually confirm that actual date. But then it makes researching for, making a video really difficult. Same with writing books or any sort of research journal and stuff. So let's see. Rye Gifford, I've watched your video for several years. Thank you for all the knowledge you share. Yours was the video I used to determine which DNA test to do for my multinational family members in our history. Awesome. That's great to hear. I'm glad that my videos were very helpful for you. When it comes to choosing which DNA test to do, a lot of people mostly talk about the admixtures, whereas I'm always like, don't worry about the admixtures so much. And there's so much more to, really understand with the DNA tests. And having a multinational family, I'm guessing my heritage was on the list. But Ancestry, I think, is probably one of the best nowadays overall. Bear Pantry, glad to be here. You covered me twice. It helped a whole lot. Thank you. Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure. Michael O'Neill, hi from the UK. I have family from Zeeland and Leeuwarp in the Netherlands. Very cool. Very cool. I don't know if I have any family that was from there, but I did have a cousin, Joseph Nunes Vaz, who married a Sarah Zeelander. And then they moved to New Zealand, funny enough. Hold on one second, everyone. All right. Neek, Groningen is with a hard G and ing as in king. Groningen. I don't know. If I say something enough, I'm sure I'll get it one of the times. In fact, a couple of years ago, I was having a meal with Catherine and some other genealogists from England, and they were trying to get me to say, I think it was Woolwich. And I don't know if I think it was I'd say it 10 different times, and they'd be like, yeah, that. And then I'd say it again, and they'd be like, no, the other way. I don't know. Woolwich. Close. Groningen. Yeah. Do you pronounce the final N? Yeah, from what I've learned, it depends on where you are in the Netherlands. The things that I've been learning from, they're all basically forget about the N at the end for a lot of words. So let's see, binne instead of binnen. So I guess Groningen. I guess I kind of say it, but I don't know if that's right or not. Trying to think of what words might not have an N. Like schildpadden. Schildpadden. Ik heb schildpadden op de tafel. No, schildpadden staat op de tafel. Ligt op de tafel. Turtle. Yeah. All right. Well, if anyone has questions for me, feel free to ask away. Yeah. I'm sure not everybody's wanting to watch me try to learn Dutch, although that's what I could do. We don't pronounce the middle W. Warwickshire. Oh, is that Warwickshire? The joke that a lot of my friends had growing up, and I forgot what this is from. I know it's a movie, but it's like, you sound like you're from London. Such an international chat we have. Honestly, I love it. I think it's so cool that we have so many people from all over the world, and we're just a bunch of, I guess, a large majority, maybe not everybody, but we're largely a bunch of genealogy nerds. Yeah, sympathies. Sympathies. I've been teaching myself Polish to assist with my genealogy research. It's been going. Yeah, I did a bunch of learning Cyrillic. I tried to learn how to speak Ukrainian for a bit, and then I stopped and switched to Dutch. Partially because I think I kind of realized I probably wasn't going to be going to Ukraine anytime soon. Unfortunately, as much as I'd like to. But yeah, with learning Dutch, it's definitely it's been going. I think if I had people to talk to all the time, it'd probably go a lot faster. But the fact that I do listen to a lot of music and I watch a lot of videos and stuff, like on YouTube, they have Easy Dutch. Welcome by Easy Dutch. We love that you kijk. Yeah, Coke. Yeah. Yeah, and then I also did Metniek. Metniek. Yeah. Ik ben Jared. Although I guess I just say Jarrett. I guess. I don't know. Should I say Jarrett? Because with Ukrainian, I'm Ziarat. So, yeah. Cheel, any idea when Ancestry will be releasing the clustering tool to everyone? I'm in the UK. I don't know. I got it wrong when I put out my video saying that everyone had it, and I don't know why I thought that. I think it was because I hadn't received the tool in so long, wasn't access to me, and then I finally got access, and I guess I just assumed I was like one of the last ones, but apparently not. So I don't know. My guess is that they've released the beta to start tinkering with everything, and then once they reach a point that they feel, okay, we're going to do that full rollout, then I think, it could be a long time. Because like for MyHeritage, they did something similar with their new admixture like a year ago when they released it. They released what did they call it? Like, I think that they called that 2.0. First one they called 0.95 for some weird reason. But yeah, anyway, basically it took them a long time to get it out. Granted, that was MyHeritage, not the same company's Ancestry, but I don't know. And everybody that even already has it is largely waiting for the custom side of it to come out, because that's going to make a huge difference. So hopefully soon. But I don't know. Karma, I'm trying to learn German. It's one of my lost ancestral languages. French is another. One thing that's been cool with Dutch is that whenever I watch stuff where people speak German, I'm like, oh wow, I recognize what they're saying. That's like, it's almost like the combination of knowing English and Dutch makes it so that German becomes largely understandable, or I guess decently. Like I certainly couldn't understand everything, but it was like I was catching all sorts of, oh, he said snel, oh, he said langsam, oh, he said this. Ich bin whatever, and it's like I understand kind of what they're saying. Catherine, at the conference, I had people asking me just to talk so they could hear my accent. Very strange. I have no accent. Yeah, I guess we'll have to let everybody determine that when I release the candy video. See what everybody says. Yeah, Cheel, also, is it any good? In my experience with the clusters that Ancestry was making, because I'm pretty sure that's what you're referring to, they were actually reliable clusters. Like for the family trees that were well built out, we could easily identify this cluster came from this branch of the tree, this other cluster came from this other branch. So the clusters that didn't have ties to known ancestors in families where they got clusters, it seemed to me like, okay, these are likely actually very confident, and we can actually utilize these clusters to research further. So I think with all auto cluster tools, which I guess it's really just this and all the stuff that EJ Blum put out. But with all the different auto cluster tools, I think there's always going to be a mixture of stuff where you need to be a little cautious, even when you have some of the more advanced tools like the endogamous auto cluster on GEDmatch, just because, just like everything DNA, you just need to understand the in-depth information in a way that you know what issues you might be up against. Hopefully that makes sense. But just the full nuance. Ryan, my Polish is far more advanced if I'm talking about cemeteries and church records. Speaking with the locals on my research trips there have been entertaining. Yeah, that's something that I think I'd probably be pretty decent at. I've spent much more time in documents with Dutch family names and things, and I certainly, when I learned those words during my Dutch lessons, it's like, oh, I already know that. Like when we got to the family part, there was very little that was like, oh, I didn't know that. Like the ones that I didn't know really well were oom and tante, aunt and uncle, or uncle and aunt, or whatever. I think I got that right. Maybe I got that wrong. I know oom is uncle. I think, is it tante, aunt? I don't know. But oma, opa, vader, moeder, dochter, zoon, grootvader, grootmother, and then I guess echte grootmother, and then I don't know. When I went to the Netherlands a few years ago, I'd only started learning Dutch, so I really was not in a place of being able to do anything except say a couple of sentences, and then anyone tried to speak anything to me, it was like no clue. Bear Var, a bit of a niche DNA update. FTDNA may start allowing uploads from whole genome sequencing companies to their big Y database. It'll completely kill off Y-full, leaving FTDNA as the only Y tree, which may be a good thing. Honestly, as much as I do love Y-full, and even if this does happen, there's still going to be kits that are only in Y-full because not everyone's going to upload to family tree DNA necessarily. But I agree. I think it will be a good thing in the end. With the haplogroup, or not even haplogroup, with the whole phylogenetic tree, it all relies on more and more data points. And there's actually a really close Y-full match to me who was a upload from a whole genome sequencing company, I think. I need to look back. I'm pretty sure it was whole genome sequencing company. So for me, it was like, oh, I need to get this info from this guy because it seemed like it was a genealogically relevant match. Basically, I think we had one SNP difference. So it was like, oh my gosh, if I could place this guy in my family tree, or even if I can't place him, but he has the same Goldberg surname as my Y line, oh, that'd be amazing. But all my Y matches otherwise, they're all beyond the genealogical time window, at least at this point. Michael O'Neill, my mother knows a lot of German, so that has helped with my German ancestry. Definitely helps. Yeah, it definitely helps when you're doing research and you know the language. On my maternal side, my grandma's paternal grandparents came from Germany and decided that they would no longer speak German, at which they passed it down. In my family, when I first started researching, I got a bunch of letters from first cousins of my grandfather's, first cousins twice removed. And they told me about growing up and remembering like their grandparents would speak Dutch as a way so that the kids couldn't understand what they were saying. So they never learned Dutch because the parents didn't really want them, the grandparents and the elders didn't really want them to learn it so much. So they just stuck with English. Matthew Nell, I'm 100% Ashkenazi Jew, but 23andMe said that I have distant Sephardic and Mizrahi. Do I really have Sephardic or Mizrahi ancestry, or is this detection a result of a genetic similarity from these three groups? The unfortunate answer is that you can't tell either way necessarily, but there are ways to help give the confidence of one way or the other, because it could be that actually represents a Sephardic or Mizrahi ancestry, Or it could be like you say, where it's just because of the genetic similarity between Jews that it is just kind of misrepresenting that DNA. And so one way to figure that out is by looking at your DNA matches and going through and seeing, do you have a significant amount of DNA matches where they largely have only a Sephardi or Mizrahi ancestry? Unfortunately, that's a big difficulty because a lot of people that do have Sephardi or Mizrahi ancestries these days, not everybody, but a large majority, they are also mixed with Ashkenazi ancestry. So if you do match with them, you can't tell for sure, is it because you're both Ashkenazi or is it because you might have Mizrahi or Sephardi? But if you do start to, do or go through your DNA matches and find like, okay, I am finding a lot of people where they basically are just Sephardi or Mizrahi, that's really the indication. Otherwise, the way that I would proceed with it is as you do research into your family tree, you can always keep that in mind as if I find something that hints towards possible Sephardi or Mizrahi ancestry, whether that be a surname or a location they came from or something that seems like it could tie to that, well, that along with the DNA could be a good indication of, okay, that might be a route of research I want to try to take. Okay, if I think that there's Sephardi from this area, what Sephardi specific records? So like if you find out that you have Dutch ancestry and then you find that you have, if you have Dutch Jewish ancestry and then you find hints of Dutch Jewish Sephardic ancestry, researching the Sephardi side is going to be different than researching the Ashkenazi side. So knowing that possible Sephardi ancestry would then lead your research to open up to, could I find them in Sephardi records or could I find them in Ashkenazi records, not just researching one? So that's really the big takeaway from it. Unfortunately, it's, you got a lot of work to really prove anything with it, unfortunately. But keeping an open mind of it could go either way. It's just about proving or disproving. And until you prove or disprove, moving that confidence. I'm going to jump forward a bit. Let's see. Okay, Mattias Johnson, re-FTDNA and whole genome sequencing. Looked to me more like a collab when I read the email and survey. They plan to work together with a whole genome sequence company, then allow uploads. Would be awesome if they did it officially. Oh, okay, I'll need to look into this. I hadn't seen any of these announcements, but also with getting back from the conference and other stuff going on, I haven't been able to pay attention to a lot of announcements. So either way, my guess is if it's a specific whole genome sequence company, it's probably going to be either Nebula or Dante because those are the two big ones. I don't know if it might be some other company within possibly the forensic world, although that'd be kind of weird. But there are some forensic companies that do whole genome sequencing, and FTDNA is owned by Gene, which makes a lot of its money through forensic DNA testing. But I'm pretty sure they try to keep both of those very separate as much as possible. So my guess is it's probably more Dante or something. But like there's, companies in the forensic world like Othram do whole genome sequencing. But they would not be a company I'd suggest people go to for whole genome sequencing on a consumer end. Like, that's definitely more Dante or Nebula, which is where I tested. Irene, good to see you. Better late than never. Very true. Very true. Ron Grass, I'm way more interested in my ancestral regions update when it becomes available. Yeah, with the ancestral regions, I think you're not talking about the admixture. You're talking about what they call different things on different sites, like the genetic communities and stuff like that. But basically, it's where they're utilizing the admixture along with your DNA matches to determine something more specific. Yeah. All right. Let's see. We got stuff going. Another Netherlander, Rob. Hello. Hoe gaat het? And Eve, my husband, not Dutch, has picked up a lot being around the parents of his best friend. Very cool. All right. Let's see. Fit Carpet, re-FTDNA and whole genome sequencing. The survey did also ask whether people who've previously undergone whole genome sequencing would be willing to upload to FTDNA. It also seems like they will offer medical info as well. Interesting. Wasn't an announcement sent email to Big Y700 customers, as I understand it, along with a survey on how much one would pay, etc., health data compared to genealogy related. Okay, so I should have gotten that email then. All right, maybe I missed it. I'll have to look back. Carmigel, have you caught Naming the Dead? I believe it's on Hulu. Very interesting. Yes, I did catch it. I had a lot of fun watching it, especially because the entire time I was like, I know that person. I know that person. I know that person. I mean, it was a lot of people that I have interacted with in the genealogy community and the forensic community, I guess the IgG community, a whole lot. Karen Binder was probably the number one who I knew on there. But like I've met a lot of them, Ronna Kevorkian. Trying to think of some of the other names. I don't remember all of them off the top of my head. And I knew some of the other people that I guess basically they had filmed more episodes than they released. So maybe some of those will be in the second season. But I knew of other people that had, basically been a part of the show, but like I guess they didn't know if their episode would be included or not. I don't know. But it was honestly a really well done show. I have to say I was super jealous of the DNA Doe Camp thing, where basically what they did was when they were working a case, they would have a camp session where a bunch of people would come down for, I guess, a weekend, and they would set up this tent outside, and they would like have all these computers and a big whiteboard, and they'd all work together and be like, okay, you research this family and build their tree. You research this person and look into their history. And you were like, it was like everyone's divvying stuff up. So they like figured this out in a small amount of time. It was really interesting. But it was a really good representation of IgG work, the ups, the downs. And yeah, one of the episodes they had, it was a case that has not been solved yet, which was a little like, it was like, oh, that's kind of surprising. And I remember talking to a few people at the IAJGS conference who had seen it and were like, yeah, I kind of wish they'd included, just episodes of ones that were solved. But I think it's kind of good to include ones that weren't solved in the sense that, you work IgG, you just have so many that go unsolved either for long time or just go unsolved completely. That was probably one of the hardest things when I left working investigative work was the cases that I had spent so long on, some that dated back to like my first year working in investigative genetic genealogy that hadn't been solved. Some of them that were like close to it, but like there were, law enforcement like were up against certain issues with things and like, a lot of ones where it's like I wonder so much all the time, like, oh, I wonder where they are with that case. I wonder where they are. But even a bunch of them, like I'm sure there's a bunch of those that I had worked that are probably still not solved. So yeah. All right. I am far behind now on so let me move forward. Okay, good to know. FTD email subject line is help shape the future of family tree DNA's testing services. I'm not going to show it on the screen, but I want to just help shape. Oh, okay, yeah, I got it. All right, I need to look at that. Bearvar, I'd be very curious if using whole genome sequencing for autosomal matching would help deal with issues relating from false imputations, especially with endogamy. I honestly think that there's more to gain by using more autosomal SNPs. Or I guess technically some of these wouldn't even be SNPs at that point because we wouldn't expect any variation. They're just all the base pairs, which is basically what you're saying, all the autosomal base pairs. And actually, I should explain this because not everyone's going to know this. So imputation is something that's done when they do DNA testing. And what they're basically doing is they're only looking at specific points on your DNA. So they'll like look at, let's say, point 1, and then they skip a bunch of points and they look at point 50. And then they look at point 100 and point 150. So once they read those, they then they do imputation, where based on that, they fill in the gaps. So another way to think of it is like if you were writing a letter and you left out all of the vowels, you would largely still be able to understand the letter if you understand the context of what usually is between those letters. So if you write the sentence, we began the tests at midnight, take out all of the vowels, and then they imputate what are those vowels. And so they're doing that with DNA, but there can be false imputations, which is what Bervar's mentioning. That happens. And that's one of the big issues too with the admixtures, is when you have false imputations, then you can get readings that might seem like a very different population group than what you truly descend from. So if you have whole genome sequencing where you're testing all of the DNA, so with consumer DNA testing, they're testing 700,000 SNPs or so. But everybody has 2 billion SNPs. Women and men have a different number of SNPs, I think, or not, excuse me, not SNPs, DNA markers. DNA markers. But basically, I think it's men have more. I can't remember exactly, but it's billions. So when you do whole genome sequencing, it's testing everything. Of course, there's going to be errors. I think whole genome sequencing still is like a 1% error, but also there's different levels of whole genome sequencing. So if you buy a whole genome sequencing test, you usually see how many reads. So like the typical consumer test read is, I think it's 30x, but it might be 10x. But then like a medical test read would be a 100x read. And then I guess there's probably more levels than that. So this is honestly right now, everything I'm talking about is like at the limit of my knowledge with genetics, where I'm getting into the part where true geneticists, that's where their specialties are. And this is not knowledge that most genetic genealogists necessarily know. And most of the ones that do know it probably know it at a level like I do, where it's, somewhat elementary. But even then, knowing enough just to be dangerous, I guess you could say. But to understand this whole idea that if we can switch to more whole genome sequencing, the more DNA we test, the less errors we might run into with things like imputation. So yeah. All right. not to bring down my my knowledge, I guess, just to be realistic. All right. We have Retro Rob Casa here. Good morning. Good to see you. Glad you're here. Let's see. Koyama 1013. My mom's parents were both Dutch immigrants. They never taught any of their children the Dutch language. They wanted their kids to speak English because they were Canadian children, not Dutch. Yeah, I think that's a common immigration story. I know I've heard a lot of that from a lot of friends I grew up with who were Hispanic, that their parents were the immigrants. And they're like, oh, yeah, my parents always want us to speak English at home. They always want to speak English here. And then that was, I feel like I hear these similar stories in all sorts of different families, especially those that I guess immigrated to the U.S. and Canada. But I guess it kind of also makes sense in the, you're in this new place and it's you want to become part of that. So what better than to be with that language? Ry Gifford, question: what to do when basically everyone in the town recycles the same dozen names? I found 200 plus family names in the region, but have basically resorted to mapping one entire town's genealogy history. Yeah, I mean, that's a difficult thing to deal with. There's a few tools you can use to help with that. One that I like is using a genealogical numbering system. At the very least, it helps you keep order within the same families, because I know in my own family research, in my Sephardi families, it's like you'll have multiple generations of the same family with, 5 Jacob Nunes vases each generation. They're all born around the same time. And so you end up with 30 different Jacob Nunes vases across a couple hundred years, and trying to keep them all in place. It's very difficult unless you have a genealogical numbering system. In terms of going up against a town where multiple families that are not related are taking the same names, especially the same surnames and given names, that's a whole different ballgame. Especially countries known for patronymic naming, like the Scandinavian countries, good luck. I think it obviously comes down to more of a local knowledge of specifics to help determine things. Just like with Dutch Ashkenazi Jews, they largely went by patronymic names, but we have ways to kind of still figure things out. They did these weird things where they kind of had surnames that they would keep, but they didn't make them official until 1811 when everyone had to. But yeah, so it'll vary. But yeah, I mean, just the genealogical numbering system at the very least could be a good way to kind of help kind of order things a bit. And Weeping Scorpion, hello everybody. Hope everyone's doing well. Good to see you. Our Faroe Islands contingency. And then we also have Laura White. Hello everybody. Hello. And John, my aunt by marriage was born in Amsterdam in 1940. She and her family immigrated to Australia in 1952. She married my uncle in 1965. Very interesting. So, okay, interesting. Did your uncle migrate to or go to Australia, or did she come to Ireland, or because I thought, yeah, you're an island. All right, let's see. Oh, I'm not that far back. Kayama, but of course, both parents would speak Dutch to each other when they didn't want the kids to know what they were talking about. Yeah, another common story, which I think sometimes that's why people were like, yeah, kids don't learn this. We need a secret language to speak that you can't understand. Excuse me. Karma, my German ancestors, it was probably part were Americans now and part World War I was on the horizon, and anyone who spoke German or had the accent were shunned. Yeah. I mean, that is a big part of it is, depending on the time period, if there's a major anti this group sort of sentiment, the people of that group often try to fit in much more. So even, I mean, all around the world, a great example would be Fred Armisen's grandfather, who was originally Korean, but was in Japan. And then there was anti-Korean sentiment. So then he changed his whole identity to Japanese. But it wasn't until he went on Finding Your Roots that he was able to learn that truly he actually was Korean, not Japanese. So Laura White, is it best to do as many DNA kits as you can afford to get the most info, or is that a waste of money? Yes, it is, assuming that you're doing the DNA test to find your DNA matches. If you're doing it only for the admixture percentages, I don't think you're really going to get that much out of it. But hopefully you are looking at doing these for the DNA matches, which the DNA matches are what really help you expand your knowledge of your family tree through genetic genealogy, which is not easy. But the basic idea with it is that you want to have as wide of a net cast as possible, because the more DNA matches you can compare against, the more of a likelihood that you're going to find a significant match that's going to help you overcome issues in your family tree or help you figure things out. So 100% definitely do that. And there we go. I see that pop up. Yes, for the DNA matches. Thank you. So 100%. Unfortunately, MyHeritage just stopped their uploads ability, but Family Tree DNA still allows uploads. Living DNA allows uploads, and GEDmatch allows uploads. So highly recommend getting into those. And then, if you're looking for as many DNA matches as possible, 23andMe is still a good option. I still recommend people tested 23andMe if they want as many DNA matches as possible. I personally don't have any worries with it. Some people may. Certainly do your research, be informed. But in my opinion, I'm comfortable with it. And Rebecca Lindstedt, which test is the best one to take if you are Swedish? I don't know necessarily. We do have some Swedish folks in chat, I believe, or we did. I don't know if they're still here. But if anyone is here and you have opinions, let Rebecca know. The only things I would say is that from my experience, I would imagine MyHeritage has a pretty good amount of Scandinavian and specifically Swedish testers. And I think Ancestry as well would be a good option just because it's such a large database. Oh, here we go. Matthias, fellow Swede, way more matches on MyHeritage than Ancestry or 23andMe. Yeah, and that's kind of what I figured. I know when I do DNA testing for any of my Eastern European, that's what we see with MyHeritage is they have a huge amount of people because MyHeritage years ago invested in distribution centers all around the world, and that allowed them to get very large groups of testers from these European countries where it was much harder to get Ancestry or 23andMe. So let's see, Matthias, FTDNA was bigger, but recently I think it was somewhat declined. It has somewhat declined, yeah. And then Valdemy's MyHeritage is probably the best for the most possible matches. Okay, so basically what I thought for Scandinavians. We got some more folks saying that as well. Found many Scandinavians on MyHeritage DNA and Family Tree DNA. I know my wife's family's Finnish. MyHeritage has presented her 16,000 DNA matches. So based on its population, I would say MyHeritage is the best. Weeping Scorpion, MyHeritage had some pretty aggressive advertising going on in Denmark. I would imagine they did so in Sweden as well. Yeah. People testing early in Sweden used FTDNA, so it's a tie, but I'd say MyHeritage in general. Yeah, and if it was more people doing early testing on FTDNA, then that also means that the matches you'll have on FTDNA, there's a little less maybe of a chance that they'll respond just because, those emails might not be the same. But either way, I think this is all a lot of really good advice. So yeah, MyHeritage for sure. And we are getting our contingency saying that. And Laura White, thank you very much. I greatly appreciate the $2. Great format. Thank you. Well, thank you very much. This is my way to give back to the community. And and I greatly appreciate your $2. Thank you. Thank you. And Rebecca, my pleasure. Happy to help. And we got a lot of great people in chat with a lot of great experience as well. So, I don't know if I missed some stuff in the back. I think I jumped ahead at one point. So if I miss anything and you really want me to answer something, just repost it if I miss it. Let's see. Matthias, yes, the matches on FTDNA are potentially also one generation older. Good in that context, but also more unresponsive. Yeah, I guess very much a double-edged sword. But yeah. the older generation is definitely better for matching, but less responsive. And Hopegate, should I just give up on matches that don't have any tree linked and I haven't answered my first message or try to contact them again? What I would actually suggest is learn the tricks to overcome that issue. So there's a few things you can do. It's going to vary depending on the site that you're testing at. So, if you're testing at 23andMe and all the person gives is initials, there's nothing you can really do about that. There are still some tricks you could do about that with the shared matches. So, like if you have someone that's JR and you're like, this is a really significant match to me, but there's no information. Well, if you look at their shared matches, you might see that they have a child who doesn't match you so well, but you can tell that they're a child, and you go to their profile and there's a whole bunch of info on them. That's a way to overcome it. But 23andMe is one of the harder ones. If it's on Family Tree DNA, you've got an email to work with. And with emails, you can use those usernames and do searches of that username across other platforms, because people often use the same usernames. Of course, if you get full names, depending on how rare it is, if you get a John Smith or, Martin DeYoung, good luck. You're not going to find them. That's, too many people with those names. But if you get some, a somewhat unique name, or maybe there's a little bit other information they give you, just utilizing whatever info you have to get over that difficulty of no tree and no response. This was something I had to learn how to do for my search angel work, which was helping adoptees find their biological families. But as well, this was a technique that you have to have down for investigative genetic genealogy, because when we got DNA match lists for our work, we could not contact these people. We could at best contact law enforcement to tell them, hey, you should talk to these people. And when I say contact law enforcement, it's not like we just call the police like randomly. We had law enforcement we were working with on the specific cases. So basically we tell the person that we were working with on that case, hey, we have this match. We cannot figure them out, but if you can get in touch with them, this would be a huge help. But we didn't want to do that a lot, so we needed to overcome these issues. If you have full names, things like Been Verified is a good place to go. The white pages, Facebook, Twitter, all of that sort of stuff. And it can take a while. There are some times where I've taken hours just to figure out the identity of a DNA match to then start trying to build their family tree. So yeah, you're not stuck if they don't have anything, but it can take a bit of work. All right. I need to actually check my schedule for how long I can go, because, okay, perfect. I don't have to be there until then. All right. So, yeah. All right, let's see. Kai Ama, the struggle my father and I have seems to be 4 or so different spellings of our last name due to the letters C, S, and vowel sounds recorded differently depending on recorder's interpretation assumption of spelling. This is actually a very common difficulty in a lot of families, especially families that are migrating from various places. This is something that, fluid surnames, you see a lot. And as you go further back in time, it actually becomes more common because surnames were just naturally fluid because people just would spell their names variously. So for my family, Nunes Vaz, we have Nunes Vas, Vaz, Nunas, Nunis. Sometimes they drop the Vaz, sometimes they drop the Nunes, it varied depending on the areas. But then, there can be even bigger variations too. So it is a big difficulty, but at least if they're staying within a phonetic representation of the name, you can at least search the various phonetic variations, and ones you can guess at. Think about it in the same way of, okay, well, if I saw that name from my standpoint and I didn't know anything about it, I might say it this way. So for one family of mine, Silicon, hardest family to research for the longest time, until I finally found a record of a marriage in the family where the name was spelled phonetically. Now, I always knew it as Silicon, Siliocn. Well, this record, which was definitely my family, 100% address correlated, all that stuff, the name was Soolison, Soolleson. Well, that told me immediately, even though Silicon was how I was pronouncing what I saw, it probably was originally Silicin. And eventually I figured out that it was originally Schulensin or Schulemsen. And it was funny because it was like every generation it slightly changed. And it was a family from Kishinev. And so within Kishinev, it changed in multiple generations. Then they came to Boston. And then it changed in multiple generations where it was like Silken and Silicon and like all that stuff. And so like that family has taken a lot of time to research just because I have to be so careful on everything I found because the surname on every record is different, but it's the same person. Eve, my second great grandfather from Croston, had an Australian convict first cousin who served 7 years, sponsored siblings emigrate, DNA fifth cousins in Australia, Cotton spelling, common ancestor born 1767. Interesting. Okay. So they were sponsoring siblings to emigrate. Wow. That's pretty cool. All right, let's see. How far am I back? Okay. John, my uncle emigrated to Australia too, born in Wales. My grandparents married in Wales. My grandfather was Irish and was in RAF and stationed in Wales. Same place where Millennium Falcon was built. Very cool. Very cool. NTL, with the new shared matches on Ancestry, you can pinpoint where those treeless and initial matches belong. It has really been a game changer for me. Yes, so exactly like I was mentioning previously about 23andMe, where if you have someone where you don't know anything about them and they just have initials, if you look at their shared matches, it's just like how Ancestry has it now. And actually, MyHeritage had the same shared match tool around for a long time. Which is, I will say, it's been funny how people have talked about the Ancestry tool like they were the first ones to do it when actually they're like the third. Well, I guess technically the fourth because GEDmatch kind of has tools that do that too, but not quite the same. But either way, it's really amazing because it's the biggest database, so it instantly became super helpful. But it's something that I've been wanting from Ancestry for years. But it really is a game changer, and it's very helpful in a lot of ways to really figure out how matches are connected in your family, especially for endogamous families. Aga L, is it possible to know if someone who doesn't show in your matches has matches turned on MyHeritage? Unfortunately, there is no way to know. Well, actually, I shouldn't say it that way. The only way to know would be to ask the person. So if it's someone that you know, you can just ask them, hey, do you have the matches turned on? Of course, some people may not realize they don't have the matches turned on because you have to go through on MyHeritage and do the consent things and all of that. Not everyone goes through that process. You can go through that process and not consent as well. So yeah, unfortunately, not really much you can do about that. Gazillion, even in a monolingual country, spelling varied across centuries, regions, individuals. Yes, definitely. Rye Gifford, I've learned to mostly just ignore common spelling differences. All the priests wrote the Latin equivalents of all the Slavic names anyway, and then that's not accounting for common diminutives. Yeah, for my Dutch Jewish family, especially the Dutch Sephardi side, I actually fight a lot with, or I guess not quite as much anymore, but I used to fight a lot with a lot of the Dutch researchers on Genie because they wanted to use the writings, like the way the names were written by civil records, like civil servants. I mean, technically some of these weren't civil records, but like they would go by the marriage bonds, the records van de Ondetrau registers, however you say it. But the marriage bonds, the announcement that these people are getting married. And those were always spelled in a very Dutch way, whereas the records that were in the Portuguese community, the Portuguese Jewish community's records were spelled differently. So the surname I always point to is Barzillai. So in the Sephardic records, it was usually spelled Barzilay, Barzillai. But in Dutch civil records, they would spell it Barzilij, Barzillai, the Dutch way to say it. or the Dutch spelling of how you would phonetically say that. And so that's how a lot of times it would be spelled, even though it's like, look, the majority of records on this person that are coming from the community where they would have had more of a say in how it's spelled, that's how they're spelling it, not this one Dutch record or these two. And so it was like a fight I'd always have because everyone would always be changing it. And, the thing I was doing on Genie is there's you can actually set language options. So I would have the Dutch option with the Barzilai spelling of AIJ. So it's a little ranting, just a little ranting there. And there's a couple. I mean, I don't really fight about a lot of that stuff anymore, but there are some of the Dutch researchers on the Genie tree that are a little too much for me, a little too opinionated, but not all of them, obviously. There's a lot of Dutch researchers who I do a lot of collaboration with. Brian, heading off to my live stream. Have a good week, everyone. Well, I hope your live stream goes well. It's already, I've been going for a while, so I probably won't go too much longer. So, once I'm done here, everyone should go check out Brian's stream, continue the genealogy talk. Stro, are Social Security records worth purchasing for people who you have a brick wall on? To be completely honest, I have not done a lot of in-depth Social Security records research. I've obviously used the Social Security indexes, especially because a lot of the Social Security indexes, or some of them, will include the parents' names, which is extremely genealogically useful. But I've never ordered any, so I honestly couldn't answer that. If anyone in chat has any experience ordering Social Security records, let us know. I'm actually kind of curious about that, actually, because I've never really even thought about ordering further records. So Ancestry has they have their online Social Security records. Let's see, share screen, share. So we have that, but I think that's just the general index. Boss News comes up. My grandfather's. So not really much. I don't know. Rise, sounds like a similar thing going on in Poland, regional and local spelling nuances versus civic, church, state standards, and those they employ. Yeah. And I that's one of the things with genealogy too, is that I think there's always an argument of which names to use where. And, that's one reason I've always loved Genie so much, is because they have such advanced name options where you can have so many names for one singular person. And, it's especially helpful. Here's an example. Once it loads. So an example, this is my third great grandfather, Shmara Avramovich Voxer, and his Ukrainian spelling, Shmara Voxer, and then the Hebrew spelling Shmara Voxman. Technically, this should be the, I think, Yiddish spelling. At least I think that's the Yiddish version. I don't know how well everyone can see that. So, but you get these name options. So, we've got English, we have Hebrew, Ukrainian, but, you can add, here's all these languages, all the languages that I have used across the profiles on Genie. And then here's all various languages, because a lot of people will have a lot of names. So for my own profile, which I'm not going to pull up right now because privacy stuff, but I actually have the way that my Ukrainian name is spelled and different stuff like that. So, yeah. Gazillion, when doing Portuguese genealogy, I always write names and places according to the current standard. Stro, it's really parents' names as to why I would purchase one, as I have someone born in 1881, so I don't have another record for him until he marries in 1902, so can't figure out his parents. An 1890 census burning may be my biggest frustration. You're not the only one. You're not the only one. Where were they living? Like someone born 1881, don't have another record for him until 1902, but there are ways to try to overcome that 1890 census issue. So yeah, let me know where they are, because maybe that's something we can discuss a little bit before I hop off here. Yeah, Weeping Scorpion, I think double Vav like that is typical Yiddish spelling, but I could be wrong. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of that. That's the thing that, like, for me is always the standout of typical Yiddish spelling is the just double letters. Not really something that you see in Hebrew. But I also am not well versed enough in Hebrew and Yiddish to say that for sure, just in my experience. Yeah, here's a good one too. So, although this one's backwards, Yitzhak. Wait, why is it like that? Okay, now it's in the right fields. Yitzhak, Vaxman. And then here, Vaxer, which I really should have for the other one. And then Itzko Vaxer, Isaac. So. Okay, I was gonna say, I thought that was okay. Well, I was like, I'm pretty sure this should be a really clear image. So, you know, it's my family, mine chazin, or I guess it wouldn't be the chazin ven my, but actually I can't remember is chazin or family, chazin of family, the kleine part. I don't know, the kleine plek. Wait, no, not plek, not place. I don't know. I don't know. Trying to ask about Cyrillic using Dutch. Same, just a single semester of evening school Hebrew 20 years ago, and reading Wikipedia on Hebrew and Yiddish is what I'm basing that one. Okay, let's see. Benton County, Henry County, Tennessee area. Okay, his parents, his elders met Kindera. Kindera, neat kinderen. No N at the end, even though there's an N, right? Het is goed. Het is goed. Het is goed. All right, so Benton County, Henry County, Tennessee area. County, Tennessee area. We're going to look at Wiki Family Search. All right, Benton County, Tennessee genealogy. And if you want to give me the name, I see 1881 births. A lot on here. 1891 Tennessee enumeration of male voters, 1891. Yeah, let me know. Let me know the name. Let me take a look here. I mean, if you're comfortable, obviously. If you're not, don't feel obligated. All males age 21 and older, but could be a good hint as to the parents' names. Let's see what else we got here. Church records, court records, and basically we're just looking for everything between 1881 and 1902. Oh wait, I guess you don't have him in the 1900 census. The one born in 1881 was William Sparks Lowry. His death certificate says Henry Lowry, but can't find a record that links them. All right, let's see. All right, so there are a lot of Lowrys. There are a lot of Lowrys, but we are looking at all of Tennessee, and you are looking at where is it? You were looking at there it is, Benton County. His dad's name was Henry. Okay, so I'm gonna assume that Benton County is adjacent. All right, so we have, what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in Benton. Then Henry County, we've got 5. So let's see what these records look like. So Milton's, there's one of the Lowrys. What I was gonna see if maybe I could, if they were ordered in a way that might indicate, family groupings or something. But it doesn't look like that. Granted, if it is a Henry, probably be this one, HW, wherever he might be in here. So there's RP Lowry, HW. So that could be him. But yeah, there are a lot of Lowrys. That is for sure. You were up against something. Let's see births. And the birth doesn't have the parents' names on it? That's right. William Sparks Lowry. William Sank Lowry. Father. William. Whoa. Okay. Yeah. Probably not something I'll be able to solve on stream, but yeah, I think the trick will be just trying to overcome that difficulty. But I mean, the Social Security record could help. But hard to tell for sure. You know what I wonder? Let's try something. Family search. Experiments. Where is it? Full search. Sparks Lowry. Let's see if it. Nothing. Yeah. Definitely not enough info. All right, well, give it a shot. Give it a shot. Let's see, Brian Ellum. What is the way to figure out the mother of enslaved children, one son and one daughter, whose the children's death certificate lists only the father? Found the family who owned father and children. The way to do that is if you know where they were enslaved, then going through the papers of that plantation and going through whatever history is connected to that. So the family members that were part of the family that owned the plantation, going through the probate records, going through different land deeds and things. Yeah, I mean, this is actually the kind of research I've been doing lately for my upcoming video. And that's going to be focusing on some plantations in Florida. And I've been utilizing DNA in that research too. So it can be very difficult. And, one of the things with it is you may never get that true answer. At best you might have a hypothesis based on, if you can find the family in one of the lists and then there's a woman listed in a way that seems like she would be the mother, that's kind of what you have to go with. Every once in a while, there will be some records for plantations that will actually list family groups, but that is not the most common thing. But yeah, so. Yeah. All right. Well, I think with that, I've been going for almost an hour and a half. I guess a little bit under, obviously, but oh, excuse me. Sorry. Drinking too much soda. All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining today. I appreciate it as always. Hopefully, you all got some great info out of it and, find some new leads for your family tree research. But hope you all have a wonderful rest of your weekend. And I will definitely see you next week. Vake. Thanks, everybody. I'm Jarrett. Peace.